Maiden name was Edna Cavanaugh, and my mom was Dance Eagle. Mabel Dance Eagle was her name, but my dad was a Cavanaugh. So, and right now all my children are Martinis, but I remarried in '88, and now I'm a Caslin, but he's passed away years ago now. So that's in '96. So I've been more or less taking care of myself. Well, I worked at Sioux Manufacturing for, well, all my children were raised in California, as we're in, what is it, 1906. I graduated in 1959 from Stephan, South Dakota. It was a boarding school there, so that's where I went my last 2 years. And then from there I came home, and then I stayed with my brother. They had several small children, so they asked if I can stay with them and help with, I think there was little children all in a row, you know, about a year apart. So I stayed with them. And then while I was staying with him, he said, if you want to go to work later on, he says, you can use my car. So, so I found a job at the Mercy Hospital. I think it was a month after I stayed with them, and so I used his car to go back and forth to work and stayed with him there for, I don't know, maybe I stayed there a year, I'm not certain. In the meantime, my older sister, Rosalie Bayer, at that time I think she went to California in 1957. At that time they had relocation programs, and so her and a cousin both, I guess, I can't remember if they flew, if they went by train, I don't even remember. But when they got to Los Angeles, I guess someone was there to meet them, and then they found them a place to live, and then they'd help them find a job. And then after that first month, once they're working, they were on their own after that. So after I graduated in '59, then I think it was 7 months I stayed with my brother, then I went to work. Then she wrote a letter, if you want to come up here to California, you can get a job here or continue going to school. Well, I stayed with them there a month, 1960, I think it was in May. Then I found a job. Then her husband is a truck driver, so he said there's a hospital up here about 2 miles from where they live, that they loan me their car and I can go to work. So that's where I worked there for, I think it was, let's see, 1960 till 1965. Then I married there in California in '65. And then when the first child came along, my husband said, you should stop working now. He said, do you want to get you injured or anything like that, working or, you know, lifting patients at that time. So I quit. And then just raised the children till '78, I think. And then my dad passed away, and so I was told. So I flew back home then, and I knew a lady there. She said, I take care of the children for 2 weeks. And so she took care of it. So I stayed, went for the funeral, and then after that, I think that, I remember now, it was in April of 1960. It had to be, April of 1978 is when my dad passed away. So I think all my children were born about that time then, and my daughter was the youngest. She was 7 years old. So anyway, I came home for the funeral, and then I stayed 2 weeks with my mom at the house, and to keep her company, you know, try to, and so I stayed 2 weeks, and then I went back home, and then before the end of the month, my sister Ida called me and says, I would like you to know if you want to come home and stay with Mom. And so I told my husband at the time, I said, well, it's up to you, because we had moved to San Diego from San Fernando. We moved to San Diego for because there was heavy smog in San Fernando, and I think the oldest boy was always catching colds, and he thought that had something to do with it. So he took off to San Diego, and well, he was fortunate to get a job at the San Diego Zoo as a caretaker. So after he worked there a month, then he worked there. I think we married in '65, so he worked there till '78. That's when then we decided that we'd come home. And so he said, if you want to, we can move back home. So I said, well, if it's okay with you. And at that time, Sioux Manufacturing had a plant there where you can work. I said, as long as there's a place we can work when we get there. And there was, so that's when we returned home. So after a month, he was able to get a job there as a caretaker too. So then I just stayed home with the kids for, I think it was 2 or 3 months. Then I started to work there. It had to be in, gee, I can't remember when I started work there, 67 maybe? No, I'm getting my stories mixed up. Maybe it's 78, because we came back 70, it had to be in the 80s. So then, of course, the kids all grew up on the reservation, and the only school at that time, there was Fort Totten School here at the time, and there was a work school, but for some reason we sent them to Devil's Leg, school. So then they were able to catch a bus then. We lived quite a ways off the road then, and so my husband would bring them to the road if it was too cold, and they'd catch the bus and attended school there. And that's no, I lost myself somewhere.